Good morning, everyone. Rob Bonta, California Attorney General. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. I want to start by thanking the champions, the survivors, advocates, law enforcement partners, and community leaders like the ones standing beside me today, Crystal Lopalato from Everytown, Mike Vidmar from the Santa Clara County DA's office, and Judy Weldon from Brady, all of whom you will be hearing from shortly. I want to thank all of them who have worked so hard over the past decade to make our communities safer from gun violence. Today, we are releasing 4 publications and resources from our Office of Gun Violence Prevention, which we created a few years back, first of its kind in the nation. And these publications and resources are focused on supporting use and implementation of the Gun Violence Restraining Order. The Gun Violence Restraining Order, we use the GVRO as a short-hand reference to it, so you'll hear me use that throughout my comments today. And these gun violence restraining orders have been demonstrated to effectively prevent mass shootings, hate and terror-related shootings, suicide, and other gun violence incidents. And this year, we are marking 10 years since California's first in the nation GVRO law first took effect in 2016. So we're going to do a little bit of a look back as to the positive impact that the GVRO tool has had over the last 10 years. We'll do a look forward as to ways we can build on that progress and make even more progress going forward. And the short of it is that we're making significant progress, expanding the use and awareness of this tool and of this process, and we also have more to do. That is important because we believe every community should be prepared to effectively utilize the tool to prevent gun violence and in the process protect themselves against preventable gun violence. The GVRO was born out of tragedy that exposed gaps in our laws. In 2014, a worried mother and her son's counselor asked police to check on her son in Isla Vista near UC Santa Barbara after he posted disturbing videos and stopped answering her calls. The young man had a history of isolation, angry outbursts, and disturbing fantasies that frightened his friends and roommates, who warned he was a ticking time bomb. However, he had no criminal record, he hadn't threatened any specific victim, and he had no other record that disqualified him from passing background checks. So he was legally able to purchase 3 firearms and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. Weeks later, he published a disturbing manifesto expressing hatred for women and expressing white supremacist beliefs, and he carried out a violent attack near UC Santa Barbara, killing 6 people and injuring 14 others. Those victims' families were left devastated, and from their grief, from their pain, came advocacy. They pleaded at their children's memorial, not one more, not one more. Their voices remind us why prevention matters and why tools like the GVRO are so important for communities across California. California lawmakers answered the call. They acted. Within 1 week of that shooting, then Assemblymember Nancy Skinner introduced a law that would establish the nation's first gun violence restraining order. This law allows family members, law enforcement, and others to ask a court to temporarily intervene to address dangerous individuals' access to firearms when they show clear signs of gun violence or suicide. I'm proud to, as an Assembly member at the time, been one of the original co-authors on that bill, and I've been passionate about supporting awareness and implementing and utilizing this process ever since. The GVRO has already made a measurable difference. California's mass shooting victimization rates are now 38% below the rest of the nation on average. At DOJ, we believe the GRO should be an essential tool in every law enforcement agency's safety toolkit for preventing gun violence. So we're here calling for action, and we're also here to assist. We're releasing 4 new resources today. An information bulletin which advises law enforcement and legal counsel on recent legislation requiring agencies to update their policies and procedures related to GVROs. These laws require agencies to take concrete steps to improve awareness and implementation of the GVRO. And we are here to assist in that task. That's why we are also releasing a model GVRO policy for California law enforcement, which offers clear guidance on all aspects of the GVRO, including when to request a GVRO, how to gather evidence, and how to navigate the court process. If, for example, you want to implement a policy but you're not sure where to start, look no further than our model GVRO policy. We are also issuing a GVRO 10-year progress report. GVRO 10-year progress report. It uses data and research to assess our progress and our challenges implementing the GVRO, and provides data-driven recommendations for how we can improve our outcomes statewide, makes recommendations on what else we can do. And then finally, we're also releasing a GVRO implementation guide, which is a comprehensive desk reference and a training resource. These resources are designed to help law enforcement not just react, but act proactively to prevent tragedy before it strikes. And the work to establish prevention is work that can sometimes be hard to measure. Few headlines are written about all the shootings prevented. But over the past decade, families and law enforcement have been able to use this process effectively to prevent many tragedies. And the work is not done. There's more that we can do. There are more tragedies that can be prevented if we utilize the GVRO in more places, in more spaces, in more counties, in more cities across our state and across the country. California is proud to have led in this area and to continue our leadership. I want to take a moment to thank my incredible team who are leading this work. Of course, the inimitable Ari Freilich, who leads our Office of Gun Violence Prevention, Chief Stephen Woolery, and our entire Division of Law Enforcement doing great work every day to keep California safe and preventing disaster from occurring in the first place. I also want to extend my gratitude to champions in the state legislature, including former state Senator Nancy Skinner, as well as Assemblymember Jesse Gabriel, Assemblymember Cotty Petrie Norris, who authored some of the GVRO laws that we are working to implement today. They are indispensable partners in this ongoing work. This is a work of partnership, collaboration, teamwork, and I want to say thank you to our incredible leaders in the state legislature. Together, we'll continue to improve implementation, continue to save lives, and to keep California safe. With that, I want to say thank you. I will come back for questions at the end, but before I do, I want to pass it to Crystal Lopalato, the Director of Policy Advocacy for Everytown for Gun Safety.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. And I especially want to thank Attorney General Bonta, the California Department of Justice, and the Office of Gun Violence Prevention's Director Ari Freilich for bringing us all together. My name is Crystal Lopalato, and I serve as Policy Advocacy Director for Everytown for Gun Safety. Together with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense and Students Demand Action, Everytown is the nation's largest gun violence prevention organization, working on research, policy, litigation, and legislative and culture change to end gun violence. California leads the way on gun safety laws. We rank #1 on Everytown's gun law rankings, and we have for several years. But the work doesn't stop when the laws are passed. With leaders like Attorney General Bonta, Governor Newsom, dedicated mayors, law enforcement agencies, lawyers, researchers, and behavioral health professionals all around the state, the work to keep people safe from gun violence continues long after a bill is signed. The release of this gun violence restraining order progress report, reflecting on 10 years of implementing this groundbreaking law, demonstrates California's commitment to ensuring its laws are maximally effective. This is particularly important work for our GVRO law, because as you've heard today, the GVRO is uniquely impactful for preventing gun violence before it occurs. It can be used to stop mass shootings before they devastate communities. It can be used when a person is threatening gun violence against groups of people based on their race or gender or religion or politics, even when there's not a targeted threat against a specific individual. And it can be used as a tool to care for someone who's expressing suicidal intent, to be sure they're not able to go buy a gun during a temporary period of crisis. Importantly, Cal DOJ has gone a step beyond providing insightful statistics about past GVRO use. They are looking to the future by preparing comprehensive resources to ensure our frontline law enforcement officers have the tools they need to evaluate when a situation might be appropriate for a gun violence restraining order. And they now have written step-by-step guidance on how to navigate the court processes correctly. This is exactly the kind of effort we were hoping to see when Everytown introduced AB 2621 with Gun Sense champion Assemblymember Jesse Gabriel back in 2024. A few years ago, my colleagues at Everytown's Implementation Center identified that 7 years into GVRO implementation, the vast majority of California petitions were filed by law enforcement. That trend has held true. It's common across other states, and it makes sense. Law enforcement officers are often the first responders when a person is in crisis or makes a violent threat. It's important for folks to know that GVROs are a civil court process, that they don't have to work through law enforcement to get one. But the practical reality is that these situations most frequently fall into law enforcement's hands, and we need to do more to be sure they're equipped to recognize the risks, realize this tool is available, and navigate the court system. So AB 2621 required law enforcement agencies to update their written GVRO policies to support those goals and make those policies available to all officers. We're so grateful that Cal DOJ and the Office of Gun Violence Prevention have taken these incredibly strong steps forward to prepare this model policy along with a thorough implementation guide for law enforcement. Now we hope to see local law enforcement agencies incorporate these materials into their own policies and officer trainings, to tailor them for the needs of their jurisdiction, and to reach out with questions or further training needs. When law enforcement agencies all around the state start consistently utilizing the GVRO as part of fostering a culture of safety through prevention, even more lives can be saved. Thank you. And next we'll hear from Mike Vidmar with Santa Clara County.
Good morning. Thank you, AG Bonta, Office of Gun Violence Prevention, and everybody who is working to spread the message of gun violence restraining orders in California. AG Bonta, I appreciate you commenting on the history of the GVRO law, because anytime I were to go out and train law enforcement on this important issue, it's incredibly important that the persons receiving this message know where this came from and recognize that it was a tool that was developed because our law enforcement partners responded to a situation where they just didn't have a tool available for them to act. And it's always important to know that we're using now, thankfully, due to the acting of our state legislature, that we have a tool incredibly important, powerful here in the state. My name is Mike Vidmar. I supervise a small team at the Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office called the Crime Strategies Unit. We are a team that these days we focus on firearm violence prevention, and we're really the team in the office that is driving the conversation about gun violence restraining orders, okay? District Attorney Jeff Rosen and our Santa Clara County law enforcement partners, one of the most important things to them, of course, is preventing future firearm violence. And we have come to recognize in Santa Clara County that the GVRO law, this tool, is one of the most effective ways of promoting and preventing future firearm violence. Like the origination of the law, Santa Clara County got into and understood GVRO laws because we suffered through a couple of scenarios of mass casualty violence. Gilroy Garlic Festival, the VTA rail yard workplace shooting. This was something that directly affected our county, the people who live in Santa Clara County, our office, and we recognized that there was a tool out there that needed to be acted on, that needed to be trained on. And so our team took this mission of educating our law enforcement partners. Santa Clara County has been able to demonstrate success in the use of GVROs the last 2 years for which data is available. Santa Clara County has led the state in the utilization of the GVRO laws. We're very proud of that. But this is not an act that is a one agency task. This is something that has really required the collaboration and the communication amongst many different agencies, the District Attorney's Office, our law enforcement partners, our police chiefs, including San Jose Police Department, Police Chief Joseph, the Sheriff's Department, the City Attorney's Offices. The San Jose City Attorney's Office has been fantastic partners in this space, our county councils, and of course our courts. This collaboration, this relationship allows us to build and help others understand what the legal framework is related to a gun violence restraining order, and what the goal is that we're trying to work to prevent future firearm violence. In this space, the District Attorney's Office believes that leadership is not, it takes many forms. One of those is a Deputy District Attorney going out and training a rookie police officer on what a GVRO is, when it should be considered, and how to go about obtaining one. It can mean the law enforcement agency who can safely act and relinquish a firearm from someone who is showing signs, symptoms of future self-harm. It is the City Attorney's Office, the County Council's offices who are prepared and trained on how to present evidence in court to support these GVRO petitions. What we have found to be of incredible importance is communication between agencies. We regularly coordinate with our law enforcement partners to review cases, to discuss recent events related to firearm violence, and to identify scenarios where a GVRO could have been considered and work to address that for future situations. We think that working collaboratively, we can ensure that these orders are not just available tools to us, but they're actually effectively used on a daily basis. Santa Clara County has seen some success, but we know that we can do better. And one of the things that I'm very much excited about is that we are going to be a pilot program, Assembly Bill 1344, along with Alameda, El Dorado, and Ventura counties, where we will be permitted at the District Attorney's Office level to apply for gun violence restraining orders. There is an area, there is a gap that we can fill. Ultimately, though, with gun violence restraining orders, the goal is prevention. Every GVRO in my opinion, every GVRO is a successful intervention in a moment of crisis where we are working to prevent future violence. Every GVRO is an example of a life that may have been saved and an example of our community becoming safer as a result. I'm proud of the work of the Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office, our law enforcement parties within the county, for all the work that we have done to coordinate collectively in our approach to gun violence restraining orders. By continuing to work together, I know that we can work to ensure that the tools used thoughtfully, responsibly, and effectively to promote community safety. Thank you very much, and I would like to introduce Judy Weldon.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all of you that are here. I know that because you are here and with AG Bonta, that you are all champions of gun violence prevention. And if you aren't, get on it. My name is Judy Weldon. I am a former second grade teacher and a survivor of the school shooting at Cleveland Elementary School in Stockton. That day in 1989, a gunman fired over 100 rounds with an assault weapon onto our playground, killing 5 of our students and injuring 30 others, including a teacher. In the aftermath of that horror, I made a promise to myself that if I am walking and alive, I need to do something to stop this violence. To move forward, my fellow local survivors, organizers, and I decided to take action. We created the Brady Cleveland School Remembers Stockton chapter to raise awareness of solutions to gun violence through education, community outreach, and policy advocacy. 10 years ago, I stood alongside my fellow Brady advocates, led by Amanda Wilcox, to fight for the passage of California's original gun violence restraining order legislation, the first legislation of its kind in America. After a shooting happens, it is not simply over and done with that day. The shooting ripples on for years in the hearts of families impacted, in the hallways of our schools, and in the lives of survivors like me. Some ripples represent more than memories and trauma. They are a tribute in motion. Our advocacy becomes a catalyst for the change and accountability we need to honor the lives lost. These tragedies inspired innovative advocates like Amanda and Nick Wilcox to come together with curiosity and courage to advocate on behalf of a legal pathway to stop shootings before they happen in the first place. Today, we call this pathway California's Gun Violence Restraining Order. People often ask us, can an order by a judge really stop a school shooting? Well, these past 10 years and all of this new data show us that the answer definitely is a resounding yes. We know that in the vast majority of school shootings, the attacker often displays warnings of their intent before they pull the trigger. Before the GVRO, families and law enforcement often had their hands tied. They saw danger but had no tool to intervene. The GVRO has changed that. It allows us to remove a firearm from a person in crisis, providing a critical window for de-escalation. This isn't just theory. California's experience proves that GVROs are a lifesaver. GVROs have been used to prevent dozens of shootings and recover hundreds of firearms from people posing a significant danger of gun violence. If only someone could have brought in a GVRO before the school shooting at my school, and so many others. It is also important to mention that this tool is most effective at preventing firearm suicide, the kind of gun violence that accounts for 3 out of every 5 gun-related deaths in our country. Suicide. We know that for every 10 to 20 orders issued, at least one suicide is averted. 10 years ago, we planted a seed to prevent tragedies in our communities. Today, that seed has grown into a shield for our children and families. The data the Office of Gun Violence Prevention is publishing today shows that California has significantly expanded use of the GVRO in the first decade since the law took effect. As we mark that 1 decade turning point, we also have more work to do. In calling for action, we need to look at awareness. We need to help our communities know that there are orders like this available so that we can ensure every Californian is empowered to use the tool. Because of the GVRO, there are teachers who are still teaching. There are students who are still playing on playgrounds, unaware and never knowing how close they could have come to a tragedy. Thank you. Thank you all for being here.
Well, thank you to Judy, to Mike, to Crystal for being here. Thank you all for being here. I just want to make a couple comments about the sort of go-forward recommendations in our report about how to build on the success we've already had when it comes to our GVROs. And one of them is sort of maybe a cultural issue. I think there's a lot of thinking in the law enforcement space and more broadly that the actions that we take are to punish past misconduct. And that is true for some of our tools, but that's not what the GVRO tool is. It's to prevent future harm, and it's a civil tool. And trying to understand how that tool can apply to prevent significant shooting incidents, I think will help us. And we see from the data that there are some jurisdictions that have been very active in implementing gun violence restraining orders. Santa Clara County is one of them. San Diego is another. Riverside, another, where we see that they are active. They have broadly dedicated staff and teams to do this work. They have planted a flag in the ground and prioritized this work. And as a result, we're seeing more gun violence restraining orders being issued by judges after the entity who the GVRO will apply to gets full due process. And so we know that others can do the same, can do similar. And it's important that they do. And we've also seen, as mentioned, that 98, 99% of the gun violence restraining orders are secured by law enforcement. And law enforcement will always have a central critical role. But there are others who can petition for gun violence restraining orders who have access to important information that others might not have, information that could suggest the possibility of an imminent danger to our communities through a firearm incident. People like parents, like roommates, like employers and co-workers, like educators. They are all eligible under our laws to seek gun violence restraining orders as well. If they have information that could keep our community safe, may be appropriate folks to seek those restraining orders. So just those are some of our thoughts. We have some other recommendations in our report, but as we've seen multiple times before in different policy areas, California has taken a leadership role. We've taken responsibility to address an issue using an approach that works, that is data-driven and evidence-based, that is time-tested to be effective, and how we expand it, how we scale it is the next order of business. So as we look forward to the next 10 years after the first 10, we look forward to keeping our communities safe, preventing more tragedy through the use of this important gun violence restraining order tool. With that, happy to answer any questions that